Is she leaving me? She don't want to be with me? Are they going to the car? Are they about to leave right now? Like, what the is going on?
Well, Rob, for as much as Sophie's mum might like her daughter not to marry you, unfortunately, she's not able to convince Sophie to change her mind. Somehow, the couple that no one imagined would make it this far are now officially married.
It's my very great pleasure and delight to now pronounce you husband and wife, and you may kiss to seal your vows.
Yeah, they actually did it. That despite the fact that just days before their wedding when we last saw them, Claire was desperately trying to convince Sophie that Rob was a frog, not a prince. Now, I do have to hand it to Rob. When we last saw him in the last episode, he was actually trying to improve his behaviour. And when we join them in this episode, things haven't yet derailed. There's been no major arguments to speak of. In fact, they are still on track to get married in 24 hours' time. But that doesn't mean that all of their problems have magically disappeared. Because just listening to Rob on the eve of his wedding, it really does sound like he's still got a lot of doubts.
She says she's bi. I don't know what that means for her, for us. And she's still trying to get over me cheating on her. You know, I hope I'm making the right choice.
Yeah, the fact that Sophie kept her bisexuality secret is really just the tip of the iceberg for these two. Like, they're still disagreeing about major things like where they're gonna live and whether or not they're gonna have children. And when you boil it all down, there doesn't seem to be much trust between them. You see, even the night before her wedding, Sophie isn't sure she'll ever be able to move past Rob's indiscretions.
Trust is earned, and it's not something I can snap my fingers and be like, yes, I 100% trust him, or no, I don't. I think I trust that I'm going to be able to get to a place to trust him.
If you don't trust him, Sophie, you shouldn't be getting married to him. It's literally that simple. Sorry, but this all sounds like a hot mess. There's just no way, nobody can convince me that these two getting married is a good idea. And as it turns out, when we join Sophie the next morning, her mental anguish has turned into physical pain. She wakes up on the morning of her wedding feeling terrible, and I don't exactly think that's a good omen on your wedding day.
What?
Yeah.
I feel bad.
I feel terrible. It hurts to speak, babe.
Maybe that's all the more reason to pop the champagne and numb the pain. Poor Sophie. I mean, she's meant to have woken up today feeling excited and ready to have the best day of her life. But instead, she's woken up with a scratchy throat and feels like death warmed up. And to make matters worse, she's got this nagging feeling that there's a meaning behind it.
This could be my body's way of warning me, like, trying to make me sick so I don't marry this guy. So I am kind of thinking that, like, what if this is a sign, but...
What a sad notion to have on your special day. But to make matters even worse, the person that Sophie now wants to lean on, someone who should be supporting her, is all too ready to agree with her. Sophie's mum has never wanted her to marry Rob the Knob. She's urged her to explore other relationships with women. She still, even on the morning of the wedding, doesn't want Sophie to go ahead with this. And it's no surprise that with Sophie feeling unwell, Claire takes the opportunity to try and survey Sophie's friend about things.
So, what do you think about Sophie getting married? Are you 100% behind it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm happy for her. I mean, she's my friend. Any friend wants their friend to be happy.
I don't think that's the response that Sophie's mum wanted. Honestly, the way that she positioned that question, it was as if she wanted a buddy to be able to bitch about Rob. Like, the whole thing is crazy. But even though Sophie's friend is happy for her, Claire is still determined to push her agenda. She wants everyone to know that she thinks Sophie deserves better than Rob.
As husband material, like, I just feel like you need to kick up the bar. Like,
I mean, the only person that can do that is Sophie.
Yeah, with a little bit of guidance.
With a bit of guidance? Like, look, Rob is no angel, but I do feel for the guy. No matter what he does, he's going to have Sophie's mum on his case for the rest of his life. Now, in a different room, we join Rob and his friends, and it should come as no surprise that Rob's friends also see things very differently from Claire.
Rob has grown a lot as a man. Oh, yeah. He has a lot more growing to do in this relationship, in this marriage, but they made it this far, and I think that is going to amount to good things in the future.
Okay, so even they can admit that there is room for improvement from Rob, but at least they are trying to be positive about the relationship on the wedding day, even if Rob, Sophie and her mum all seem to have their reservations. I think that makes them very good friends. And when we join them all later on that day at the ceremony, while everyone is waiting on the beach for the wedding to commence, Sophie's mum is still trying to offer Sophie an out. She's talking to her about having an exit strategy for if and when this marriage goes downhill.
I'm really scared.
If it don't work out, you walk away. Oh, I would do a little deep breath in, a little deep breath out.
I mean, this is comical at this point. Sophie's mum has zero faith that this marriage will last, but to tell her just as she's about to walk down the aisle, it seems crazy. I have no words. So while Sophie's mum is working on a contingency plan for if things don't work out, and while Sophie is pacing around the parking lot, Rob spots them and begins to wonder why they haven't made it to the ceremony yet. Like, it's interesting to see how Rob really doesn't like feeling like he's being left out by these two. It's as if the mother-daughter bond, their closeness, kind of triggers him, and he begins to think the worst.
Is she leaving me? She don't want to be with me? Are they going to the car? Are they about to leave right now? Like, what the is going on?
On the one hand, I do see where Rob is coming from. Like, even though Sophie has turned up to their wedding, there's no guarantees that she'll make it down the aisle, especially with her mum in her ear like that. Especially given their 90-day journey has been so rocky. But Sophie has a simple explanation. It's not that she's ditching him at the altar, it's more like she just can't find the altar.
It might look like I'm running away, but I'm not. I'm just trying to find the ceremony.
Okay, so Sophie is finally in place. She's making her way down the aisle with her mum. Rob is standing at the altar, so we're fairly certain that this is going to happen now. Like, surely at this point, this is a sure thing, right? Well, wrong, because as she approaches him, Sophie is flooded with fear.
As I'm walking towards my ceremony, I'm just getting very anxious. It's just overwhelming. Like, it's just a crazy feeling. Like, is this what I should be doing? Should I be marrying this guy?
The way that she's talking, it sounds like Sophie is taking a total gamble on this relationship. The fact that she's having those feelings as she's walking down the aisle is crazy. That should be a sign. Trust your gut, Sophie. This isn't how you feel when you're 100% sure. But, eager to paint her red flags green, Sophie presses ahead anyway and tries to convince herself that they're in a strong, healthy relationship.
But seeing Rob has definitely helped calm my nerves, and we've just had so much stuff happen with us that we still managed to overcome everything and still managed to stay together.
That, Sophie, is a very rose-tinted way of looking at things. I really do hope that she's right. Like, I appreciate that we've only seen a tiny snippet of what their relationship is really like. This has all been played up and dramatised for the show, right? I understand that. But there can be no doubting that these two do have a very real uphill battle ahead of them. And even as the officiant reads out their vows, none of it seems to ring true whatsoever. It's almost as if it's been written for someone else.
Sophie, when I asked you what you most love about Rob, you shared that you feel so taken care of and at peace when you're with him.
Taken care of? Really, Sophie? Isn't his lack of consideration the very reason why you and your mum started arguing with Rob at his apartment in the first place? Like, I don't know about you, but to me, it seems like these two are much more caught up in some kind of illusion of happily ever after. They're trying to paint a picture rather than look at the facts, look at the reality of what's actually been going on in their relationship this entire time. But when they say I do, at that point, it's no longer a fantasy. That is a lifelong commitment, or at least it's meant to be.
It's my very great pleasure and delight to now pronounce you husband and wife, and you may kiss to seal your vows.
For all the nerves they felt ahead of their wedding, for all of the cold feet, the moment is now behind them. They are now married. And given how right up until the moment they were walking down the aisle, they were still having doubts, you've got to wonder how this feels knowing that they're tied to one another for the rest of their lives. It begs the question, have those doubts now dissipated?
I just feel like so much relief that we finally made it after all this time, so I feel very happy. And now I'm married. You're married to me.
The relief that Sophie's talking about is written all over their faces. It's almost as if now, with the exchange of their vows and their wedding rings, they both seem to think that all of their problems have magically disappeared. But unfortunately, guys, that is not how things work. And Rob's sister has some advice to try and help guide them for what's about to come.
The first year of marriage is hard, and this one is going to be extra hard because they haven't lived together for that long, but I don't think it's anything that they can't handle.
Rob's sister has faith, and to their credit, I think if there is one thing that we can say about Rob and Sophie, both have shown us that they're willing to stick it out. I mean, they have been through a lot. There were certain points where it probably would have been easier to walk away. But even with that in mind, even with the love that they clearly have for each other, Sophie's mum is still desperately clinging on to a way she believes she can prevent the wedding from being made official.
I can't let you take her.
We're already married.
I'm not ready.
We're already married.
You had your chance.
No, it's not official unless you consummate it tonight.
Mum, ew, go away.
At this stage, it's almost impossible to tell whether or not she's joking. I'm pretty sure there's still a shred of hope in that statement, because now that everything's said and done, now that she's given her little girl away, reality is starting to hit, and it's pretty heartbreaking to see Claire so sad at what's just transpired.
I'm really happy for her because she looked beautiful and Rob looked absolutely stunning. They both together, they look perfect. But I'm just really sad.
As much as they may have looked perfect on the day, I think Sophie's mum is still trying to wrap her head around how her daughter ended up marrying this man. She knows that their reality is far, far from perfect. Their situation has been very turbulent, and while Sophie's mum is upset by that, Sophie, by comparison, is choosing to wear that as a badge of honour.
The 90 days was hard, but it's not enough to break us up. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Rob and Sophie, cheers, cheers.
Peace, love, and prosperity.
Happily ever after.
Look, while they may have made it through a really, really rough 90 days, forever is a very long time. Marriage doesn't just automatically make things easier. And for as much as I hope for their sake that it does work, that they can be happy together, I'm just not sure that the reality can ever live up to the fantasy they've built in their own heads.